Hey folks, Evil Pajamas here on the release day for the Ant-Man Hero Pack for the Marvel Champions living card game published by Fantasy Flight Games. This will be sort of a first impressions, a power creep check kind of video, just to see, how Ant-Man stacks up in terms of power. That said, given that we are measuring power creep, I think it is fitting that we use the first hero that you typically play out of the core box, Rhino, and we'll be playing on expert mode. I am also including in this video a potential giveaway of one of three of these promo identity cards of your choice. I'll be sharing details on how to be eligible for the giveaway at some point during this video. So as you might expect thematically, Ant-Man's kit is very versatile. First, let's start with the alter ego side of the identity. So on the Scott Lang side, every time you flip to this side, you will be able to heal for 1 damage. This is nothing flashy, but one, it's effective, and two, it's easy to use. So if you've been following any of the information out there, you are probably already aware that the Ant-Man identity card is very unique in that it has two different hero forms, the giant form and the tiny form, with the giant form actually being a giant card that's twice the size because the card is foldable, and on the back side of the folded out card is the giant form, which is pretty nifty. There is one little irritating bit about this, is that it's sort of, the card sort of, because of the hinge on it, it sits up a little bit off of the play surface, at least mine does. But who knows? Maybe Fantasy Flight will partner with Samsung, and if you own one of those fancy phones, maybe they'll be able to make an awesome Scott Lang identity cover for your phone. But similar to the alter ego side, the tiny and the giant forms are very easy to use in that all you have to do is remember to use them when you change to that form. So for changing to tiny form, you'll get to remove 1 threat from a scheme. It's got a pretty meta stats at 2 thwart, 1 attack, and 2 defense, and a hand size of 5. All pretty average, but a good flip over effect. Giant form lets you deal 1 damage to an enemy when it flips over, which is a nice effect for just changing into that form. And it has really great stats at 3 attack, 3 defense, and 1 thwart. I would say the biggest drawback to giant form is it has a 4 hand size limit. I am not using all of the starter deck cards here, but I am using the starter deck aspect of leadership, and that 3 attack, 3 defense is really strong with some of the cards in leadership that will enable you to use him multiple. I guess the 3 defense not necessarily, but the 3 attack is really strong since you're going to be able to use him multiple times with some of those cards, given his Avenger trait. So that's what we have. So let's go ahead and start on the Scott Lang side and draw up to our 6 card hand limit. This is not in the starter deck. That is a card that I added. That is a new Ant-Man card, which allows him to change to the other hero form. It can only be done as a hero action. I added that card to the deck. That's not a new card. He is the leadership is Ant-Man's starter deck. Here's a new Ant-Man card, Risk Gauntlets. We did see this in the preview. So this is pretty versatile, but costs a lot of resources. Hawkeye, that's a leadership card that I added. And my last card in my opening hand is going to be Giant Stomp. Now, of course, we could mulligan any of these that we want. So I think we're going to mulligan Earth's Mightiest Heroes because there is no reason to... I don't have any Avengers out that I would want to exhaust to ready another hero. And let's see, I think that we are going to... I am going to go over how to potentially win one of those 3 promo cards in the potential giveaway that I promised. So if this video reaches 250 views, which isn't a lot, by next Friday, November 13th, 2020, Then I will select one winner that posted in the comments in this video below to pick the card of their choice from the 3 promo cards that I chose. All you have to do is post a comment, whatever you would like to do to engage with the video. I mean, if you have something negative to say, I guess that's your prerogative. You'll still be entered in the drawing. I would really help me out if you could also like and subscribe. That is not required. All you have to do is post in the comments, and the video just has to hit the count that I specified by the date that I specified. If you want some kind of protection on the promo card, you will have to send it to me first so that I can put the card in there. Otherwise, it's just going to be coming to you via standard mail if you are the lucky winner. We're going to mulligan Giant Stomp for now. It's a very strong card, but not needed at the moment. And I think that'll be it for our mulligan. So we're going to draw Avengers Tower, which I added to the deck, and the Hank Pym Ant-Man, which is 2 attack, 2 thwart. Now, you can see he has 0 health, but that is because when he enters play, you can overpay for him and give him up to 4 health. So that's going to be my starting hand. So there's no reason particularly to stay in Scott Lang form here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to I think what we'll do is we're going to flip over to Tiny Ant-Man's side. That will allow us to remove 1 threat from Breaking and Taken. It's got 2 threat remaining. Then we will thwart with Ant-Man. That's going to go ahead and get rid of Breaking and Taken. So Breaking and Taken is gone. So I'd like to play Risk Gauntlets here, but I think what we're going to do is let me see. So I don't really have a reason to resize right now. I would just be cycling this card essentially. So I think I actually am going to get rid of that. Risk Gauntlets is really strong, but I think I'm gonna pay for that. I'm gonna use it as a resource. I'm gonna pay those 2 and bring the Avengers Tower out into play. So we will go ahead and exhaust Avengers Tower, reduce the cost of the next Avengers ally played by 1. I'll pay the 2 additional resources by discarding Ant-Man and Strength in Numbers. And bring Hawkeye into play with 4 arrow counters. We're going to go ahead and attack with Hawkeye. Rhino stage 2 starts with 15 health. I'm going to drop him down to 14. Place 1 consequential damage on Hawkeye. I don't have any cards. So the tiny Ant-Man form has a 5 hand size. So that's another reason you don't want to flip 2 giant Ant-Man sizes if you don't need to, because he has a 4 hand size. So let's drop to the 5 hand size limit. We've got Ant-Man's helmet. Allows you to heal when changing to giant form, or draw cards when changing to tiny form. It's a costly upgrade at 3. First Mighty's Hero is an old card. I added this card. It's a U.S. agent, John Walker. Army of Ants. This actually synergizes with another card that was in the Ant-Man, that is in the Ant-Man deck, that gets buffed off of Army of Ants. So this is a support card, relatively cheap. And we'll go ahead with the 5th card. This was a card that was in the Ant-Man starter pack. So 3 cost ally, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 1 each on consequential damage, 3 HP, and gets buffed by getting upgrades placed on him. So those are going to be my cards going into next turn. We'll go ahead and unexhaust all of my cards. We will go ahead and place 1 threat on the break-in scheme. And Rhino will be attacking Ant-Man here. So Rhino's going to be attacking Ant-Man. I am going to opt not to defend. So we're not defending. That's going to give Rhino 4 attack. So we'll drop Ant-Man down to 8 health. Go ahead and deal the counter phase here now. Attached to Rhino, force interrupt. This is going to give him overkill and +3 attack. And that is Rhino's turn. So that attachment doesn't have a way to get rid of it by just discarding. So Rhino's gonna have a lot of attack the next turn here. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and discard these 3 for resources. And we're going to play Ant-Man's helmet. We're going to go ahead and change into giant form. So as a response, after you change this form, deal 1 damage to the enemy. Let's bring Rhino down to 13. Then we're going to go ahead and attack with Ant-Man. That is going to bring a Rhino down to 10. And then we'll play Earth's Mightiest Heroes, exhaust an Avenger character you control. So we'll exhaust Hawkeye. Exhausting Hawkeye. And we will ready Ant-Man, who is an Avenger. And, sorry, when I flipped over to Ant-Man's side, I forgot to do this. I would obviously take the heal in response. We'll go ahead and attack with Ant-Man again. That's going to bring Rhino down to 7. And I don't have any cards left, so we will go ahead and wrap up this phase. Fortunately, only four hand size as Giant Ant-Man, so we're going to get a resize. Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. This Hawkeye was not in the star cards that was added by me. And Giant Strength. So after you change to Giant form, you get +1 attack until the end of the turn. So let's go ahead and unexhaust. Add 1 threat to the scheme. And Rhino is going to be attacking with charge here. So I will be defending with 3 defense on Ant-Man. He's got a base of 6 attack. He's going to get another 2. So that's going to bring him up to 8 attack, minus the 3. So that's going to do 5 damage. Now let's go ahead and deal the encounter card. So, when revealed, deal 1 damage to each hero. As a response, we're going to remove 1 arrow counter from Hawkeye and deal 2 damage to Shocker. This is actually, I'm going to look up this rule about whether or not, because this isn't a rule I've looked up before, about whether or not this Hawkeye's hero response is limited to 1 activation. Because the arrow cost means that you can remove the card, but this just means it's a cost. So after a minion enters play, remove. Okay, so actually, I guess so. That really, if part of the cost is after a minion enters play, you're only going to be able to do it once because you have to essentially paying a minion entering play is part of the condition to pay the cost effectively. So it's not like a static condition that continues to happen where I could activate it more than once. Alright, so we're in the encounter phase, so they won't be attacking. And here we go. So let's go ahead and we're going to finish off Shocker with Hawkeye. Then we'll be using the Avengers Tower to decrease the cost of the Kate Bishop Hawkeye. This can be played because they have separate identities. So we'll be discarding Giant Strength as part of the cost there. Play the second Hawkeye. I'm going to take a double check on that unique rule here. Unique card by title. For example, if more than one person bears the title Captain America, but there's only one Steve Rogers, if two identities share the same title, but each has a different alter ego, they may coexist in play. Two unique allies share the same title, but each has a different subtitle, so they have different subtitles. So we create the following exceptions to the unique. So this is an exception. If two unique allies share the same title, they may coexist in a player's deck. But it has difference. They may coexist in a player's deck and in play. Okay, so yep, that is an exception. So it is completely fine for them to coexist in play and in my deck. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go ahead and, as a hero action, we're going to exhaust the Kate Bishop Hawkeye and ready Ant-Man. We're going to change to the other hero form. Get used to that there. Remove one threat from the scheme. Actually, hold on. Before we do that, and this should have been discarded actually when I got killed, or when I got attacked. So before I do that, let me go ahead and we're going to attack with Giant Ant-Man. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to resize. As a response, we'll remove one threat from the scheme. We'll draw a card. Wrong card there. We'll draw a card. And also as a response, for the Ant-Man's helmet, we will draw another card. So that will give us 2 cards in hand, and the rules for resize specifically state as to the Ant-Man hero in the frequently asked questions that well, this isn't really working out. I've got stuff in the way here, but you're going to have to take my word for it. That does the resize event prevent Scott Lang from using his once per change round form change? No, if the card ability charges player change form, it does not count against the voluntaries. So the cards we drew are Black Knight and Inspiring Presence. So we're going to go ahead and use the Black Knight to pay for Inspiring Presence. My identity has the Avenger trait. I will heal 1 damage from Hawkeye, and I will ready him And then I will go ahead and thwart one more time with Hawkeye. And then we're going to go ahead and flip over to the Scott Lang side. And since we changed forms, Scott Lang allows me to heal for 1. So that is everything in Scott Lang form. I'm going to get 6 cards now. I added that to the deck. Army of Ants. I think we discussed that earlier. Pim Particles, that is an interesting new resource card. So it's only 1 resource, but after you spend this card, spending means playing as a resource. Heal 2 damage from your hero if you're in giant form, or giant form, you heal 1 damage, or draw 1 card if you are in tiny form. But you can only pay this resource when you are in hero form. This was a new card that was in the starter deck. Reinforced Suit, attach 1 max per ally, 2 hit points. And that's 4 cards. 5 cards, that's a card that I added to the deck. And Army of Ants again will be my 6th card. So let's go ahead and unexhaust everything. We're going to add 1 threat to the main scheme. Rhino is going to be scheming. So we've got 2 plus Rhino is 1. So let's go ahead and add 3 threat to the main scheme. Now let's go ahead and take the encounter card. You may flip. So this is the obligation card for the new hero. It's the same as pretty much all the other obligation cards you see in the game. So exhaust Scott Lang and remove Care for Cassie from the game. So that's it. And we'll be moving on to the next phase. So 4 of the 7 threat Rhino has that would allow him to win the game. So what we're going to need to do here is see if Make the Call will help us out at all. Okay, I like Ronin there. But we already have Goliath in the hand, but he gets discarded at the end of the phase. So, we need to bring some of that threat down. But Scott Lang is currently exhausted, so probably going to have to rely on our allies. Goliath does have 2 thwart. He's mainly an attacker. This brings up an interesting question about Make the Call, because the Ant-Man Hank Pym, the interrupt is when he enters play, place 1 Pym counter on him to up to a maximum of 4 for each resource you overpaid. But Make the Call tells you to pay the printed cost on an ally in the discard pile. The interrupt... It's difficult to say on paying for the card here. Looking up spend, not in thing. Resource. To pay the cost of playing a card, a number of resources equal to or greater than the cost of the card must be generated. So you can go greater than when using make the call to play Ant-Man. So that is good to know. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to go and flip over to tiny form. So we'll remove one threat for flipping to tiny form. As a response, we will draw a card. Here's my card. I drew Sky Cycle, attached an ally, exhaust Sky Cycle, ready, attached ally, gives it Aerial. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to play Make the Call. We are going to get Hank Pym out. And we're going to go ahead and overpay for him by first playing the Pym particle, because he's Hank Pym, of course. As a response, heal 2 damage if you are in giant form. So we'll bring Scott Lang back up to, or I'm sorry, Ant-Man back up to, no, I'm not in giant form though. I'm in tiny form. So we were going to draw a card. And what we're going to do is we can still keep overpaying, so we'll overpay. That's 2. We're overpaid by 3. And I don't think Avengers Tower actually will work here, because that would reduce the cost played, but his cost is technically 0, and I can't make his cost -1. So we'll put him into play with 3 counters. And what we'll do is we will go ahead and exhaust him to thwart. That'll bring break-in back down to 1. Then I will, if I exhaust Hawkeye, that will kill him, so we're not going to do that. We're going to leave Hawkeye right where he is, and instead we are going to attack with Kate Bishop. That is going to bring Rhino down to 2. And what we'll do is we're going to use Army of Ants to pay for the reinforced suit. which we will play on Hawkeye. It's going to give him 2 more HP. Now I'm going to thwart with Hawkeye. Bring scheme down to 0. And I'm going to discard the Sky Cycle for the resource. We'll play Army of Ants. And I actually forgot to use Ant-Man's helmet, but because it's so far past that, I'm just gonna eat that as bad play on my part. So hero action: if you're in tiny form, exhaust Army of Ants, deal 1 damage to the enemy. That will bring Rhino down to 1. So I am in tiny form, which means 5 cards. Giant Strength. After you change his giant form, you get +1 attack to the end of the turn. Quinjet. I added that. That does not come in the starter deck. We've got Wasp. Avenger Ally. After Wasp enters play, 2 damage to an enemy if you are in giant form, or remove 2 threat from a scheme if you are in tiny form. Team Training, I added that. And Stinger, that's a new card. It doesn't count against your ally limit, and it is a pretty weak, but only costs 1. So that is all of that. So we'll go ahead and unexhaust. We'll add 1 threat to the main scheme. Rhino is attacking. So what we're going to do is... Oh, I forgot to put the consequential damage actually on my guys here. So what we are going to do is we are going to defend with Kate Bishop. Let's go ahead and give Rhino his boost. We give him 5 attack. 5 attack on the boost. And Kate Bishop goes to the discard pile. So we will go ahead and now we will go ahead and deal the encounter card. I am in hero form, so the villain is going to attack me. This time we're going to defend with Hawkeye. We'll give Rhino his boost. Glad to be rid of those. That is Rhino's turn. Alright, so Rhino is at 1. So what we're going to do is... we're going to go ahead and exhaust Army of Ants. That's going to bring Rhino down to 0. We'll get rid of Rhino. Brings Rhino 3 into play. He starts with a tough status card. And that will stun Ant-Man. And he starts with 16 HP. So we're going to use the Avengers Tower. And we're going to play Stinger. We're going to attack with Stinger and remove the tough status from Rhino. Then we are going to flip to the giant Ant-Man side. Giant stunned Ant-Man. After you change this form, deal 1 damage to the enemy. Due to Ant-Man, so for Ant-Man's helmet, we will heal for 2. And we will attempt to attack and remove the stun status card. I am going to So what we're going to do is we're definitely going to toss the giant strength. And we're going to toss all 3 of these and play Wasp. After Wasp enters play, deal 2 damage to the enemy if you're in giant form, which I am. Then we'll go ahead and attack with Ant-Man. And we will attack with Wasp. I am out of cards. I only have 4 hand size in this form. That's Sky Cycle. Hive Mind. If you are in tiny form, play only if you're in tiny form. Remove 2 threat from a scheme. Remove 1 additional threat from that scheme for each army ants you control. Giant Man. This is another new card. Gets +2 attack but has 3 or more remaining hit points. And then lastly, another Quinjet. Let's go ahead and unexhaust. Forgot to put the consequential damage on Wasp there. We will add 1 threat. Rhino will be attacking, and we will be defending with Stinger. No boost. I mean, there is a boost, but it has a value of 0. So that 4 attack is going to take out Stinger. And go ahead and take our encounter card. I'm tough. Give Rhino a tough status card. And that is it for that turn. So Rhino is at 9. I have a 4-card hand. I am in giant form. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to use Wasp to attack. That'll remove tough, 1 consequential damage to Wasp. Then we're going to attack with Ant-Man. And sorry, that was 1 damage to Rhino, and then 3 damage to Rhino. We'll attack with Ant-Man. 2 more damage to Rhino. Last counter for the Ant-Man, so he has to go away. Then looks like we do have a win condition in our hand here, so I'm going to go ahead and discard Giant Man to play the Sky Cycle. We will attach that to Wasp. Exhaust Sky Cycle. Ready Wasp. Then we will attack with Wasp again. That will kill Wasp, but now all we have to do is go ahead and flip over to Tiny Ant-Man. Army Advance finishes off Rhino. So I made a lot of mistakes in this play, and this was actually, I did get some pretty good draws. Both the expert cards got absorbed as boosts by the ally defending, but this was a really easy expert win, in my opinion. So Ant-Man showing to be very strong.